Yeah, no, that's not maybe 45 minutes or something.
Yeah. It's nice. The ones you're there, I don't know. I mean, you have family there. It's different, but
Yeah, her parents are gone. So she only has the one daughter. He's there. She goes down to the woods and I don't know, what do you think? You like to come and go to Mount?
there's not a lot to do there.
No. Well, the weekend for me, like where she's at, is right across the street from the minor league baseball.
Oh, yeah.
But they have like fireworks like all the time. But it's hard to just get the corn. It's almost like it used to be like a warehouse or something, and they converted them to apartments. So it's kind of like that whole lofty kind of. I think she'd rather be up here because she comes up for doctors. She has to switch the stuff down there.
Yeah. There are not that many options there.
There's a couple good hospitals.
Yeah, hospitals. But like, if you want just
The doctor.
family doctor, or it's hard to find ones. When my parents had trouble finding another doctor, they had one and he retired, and they're like, we don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to go to someone like me. I've been going to my doctor for like 20 years.
Yeah,
And he's probably just slightly older than me, so he's probably almost ready to hang it.
yeah. There's some nurses, they're like retiring, and my brother, he had the same deal with his eye doctor. My parents, same thing. They used to go to Edinburgh for this eye specialist. They had and then this year he's retired. They were so sad.
Hopefully he can refer some of the things.
Same practice and other practices he did, but when you're comfortable with your doctor, you don't want
Hopefully he's
to
talking
know
about
if they want, yeah, and then they're select. So if you have been there quite a bit, they just want to stick with that.
Probably when she has like friends. Like big
I don't have near enough money to like
With
lottery.
everything that is going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really just.
I was like, if you go stick something like
Yeah, you could retire probably.
yeah, now.
Yeah. She's to American Idol.
well that's they said
So she hasn't seen anything besides this.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with. India doesn't just address.
So is she coming as well?
She's looked at it that reports to me.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
It is.
She just moved. I don't know where she moved to, but she was in,
Yeah.
so that's why she was living there.
I'll text mom and say we're
It's roped off.
Literally, like,
Heck. I mean, you're an adult that takes forward.
oh, I can imagine. The parents. Just in.
Yeah, because of that stuff, but then like we had 10 people and we had 5. So one goes, yeah, one goes does not. That
Keep up with it, no,
Hi, hi, Braden. It does work. Thank you, Braden.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to our college application night. Thank you so much for coming out. We know how valuable your time is, and we know how busy everyone is, so thank you so much for coming out. This is the agenda for tonight, so we have a lot to cover. One of the things I will ask is that you please hold your questions till the end. At the end, we will have a nice time for questions. We'll be able to answer everyone's questions at the end of the presentation. A lot of different things going over. Obviously, the main thing is going to be talking about the college application process. We need to make sure that everyone's up to date with school links, and then also what upcoming scholarships, deadlines, important dates coming up, and then at the end we're going to introduce our ISAC rep as well. Just let me get a show of hands. How many of you are either juniors or parents of juniors in high school? Okay. And then how many of you are seniors or parents or guardians of seniors? Okay. Is there anyone in here that's with or is a freshman or sophomore? Okay. All right, so as we get started here, I want to do a quick introduction. I'm Mrs. Hoffman. I am one of the counselors here. I'm the head of the department. I have the very beginning of the alphabet. Students' last name's A, and then I have the academy program. We have Mrs. Lino, who has the next part of the alphabet. She has letters B through GA. Then we have Mr. Waston. He has letters GE through L. Mr. Albright, M through RI. And then Miss Grana has the end of the alphabet, RO through Z. So this is last names, and we do keep our students for all 4 years. If you ever have any questions, especially during this whole college application process, the counselor is definitely a great person to reach out to. And then we have a registrar by the name of Jennifer Campos. That's her extension and her number, or her email, if you have any other questions for her as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, so when it comes to whatever you really want to do after high school, whether it's college, joining the workforce, something else, you have to find the right fit. So to start off, we have 2-year colleges. That's the College of Lake County, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of before. McHenry County College, Harper College, Oak Community College. Usually they're for 2 years. A lot of kids use this as kind of a springboard to then go to a 4-year college. It's a good place to save some money where you're not paying as big as a tuition, not paying housing fees. It's a good place to get started. Then, as I said, go into 4-year universities. Think Carthage College, Northern Illinois University. On my shirt, University of Iowa. There's a lot of schools out there. There's also apprenticeship programs. Probably the quickest way to make money out of high school. You're learning and you're working at the same time. Think electricians, plumbers, all the kinds of trades. So that's a great option for a lot of students as well, who don't think college and a 4-year 2-year traditional is the best way for them. There's also the military. I don't think I have to go into much detail about that. We have a lot of reps that come and visit, and a lot of students do choose to go that path, and it's a good way to get free college on the line, a lot of benefits for joining the military. You can also go straight into the workforce. So there's a little bit for everyone after high school. You're gonna have to find something to do. Those are a good path. So if we are talking college, there's a lot of different things that kids and parents might not consider. First off is location. It's a lot different to go to Carthage, which is right up the road, or going to Arizona State. The traveling is a lot. Putting your stuff on an airplane or taking a 10-hour, 12-hour long car ride, it's a lot different than taking a 2-hour, 1-hour long car ride. If you're gonna drive to school, if you wanna go to school in the city or around here, do you have a car accessible? Do you have to pay housing fees? What do you wanna do? So that's just one little part of it. The facilities, are you gonna be living in a dorm? Is your dorm a traditional dorm where you're with 1 or 2 other people in there and you're using the same bathroom as everybody else on your hallway? Or is it a quad where you're living with 4 different people, you have a bathroom for you 4? It's a lot of different things to discover. Schools' websites, I'm gonna say this a lot when I'm talking about this stuff, has great information about what they offer. We also have a program called School Links, which we'll get into a lot of detail later. Also is great at giving you a lot of information about this. It's also the size of the school. Do you want to go to a school where there's 30,000 kids on campus, or do you want to go somewhere where there's going to be 1,000, where there's going to be 500? There's a lot of different options out there, and kind of knowing what works for you, how you learn best, is really important. On Schoolings, when you're looking for schools, you can search by campus size, and that's something really important for a lot of kids. You can also look at the career planning, the counseling that they offer. Then another big one that I know is really big to a lot of people, and obviously it is your major, what you want to go into. Selectivity is a huge thing. If you're going into engineering, it's a little bit harder to get into U of I's engineering program than it is to some of their other programs. So considering that when you're applying, looking at different schools is super important. The requirements, if you want to go into something in the arts, it's not just an application, you have to supply a portfolio. So making sure you know that you're not missing anything out in the process can be really key to you getting into schools. Direct admit programs. So you can get into a school, that's one thing, but some schools, nursing programs, business programs, engineering programs, like I said, you can get direct admitted into the school-specific college for that program. And that comes with a little bit of benefits, and you don't have to spend the 1 year, 2 year meeting certain requirements to then join that school on a direct admit. There's a little bit more there too. Activities, if you want to play sport in college, looking at what that school offers, if there's scholarships you can get. As a junior or seniors, colleges would have been contacting you already, but there's a lot of different options to play sports. You also don't have to go on scholarship. Intramural sports are a thing that schools offer if you want to stick with baseball, basketball, whatever you really want to do. Clubs. Colleges offer tons of clubs. I could list them, but we would be here all night. There's also band. If you're in the band here and you want to continue being in the marching band, look at what that process is to the school you're going into. If you do drama here, if you're like being in the musical, look at what schools offer. There's a lot to go into other than the really big things like majors, like cost. As important as they are, there's also little things that can be the X factor towards one college over the other. Study abroad's a big thing. You might not be thinking of it now as a junior or a senior, but when you're in school, there's always an option to go abroad, study in Italy, in Spain, in Argentina. There's a lot of options. And when it comes down the road on your resume, it could look really good to have studied abroad. Cost. Cost is a huge thing, probably the number one factor when choosing a school for a lot of people. Have a discussion with your parents. I know junior, seniors, you might want to do it all by yourself, but your parents are a huge resource for you. So make sure to talk to them, be on the same page, so when it comes to making a decision, you don't have a huge argument and you can make a decision together. Public and private sticker price. If you go to a college fair and you get a handout, look at the price that's offered to you. That means not factoring in financial aid right away. The vast majority of the time, private schools are going to be more expensive than public schools, especially if you're going to an in-state public school. So looking at those things, being aware can also impact your decision. Think about are you going for 4 years, or are you going to get a master's after? Are you going to look to go get a doctorate? Are you going to medical school? It's planning very far ahead, but it could be something that could save you money and help impact your decision. And then the diversity on campuses. Do you want to go to a school that's an HBCU, that's a Latino serving school, that has gender inclusive housing? There's a lot of things that you could filter on Schoolings. And again, like I said, schools' websites have all the information you can need if you have the time and the patience to look for them. Seeing in and out of state, there's some culture shocks out there. I'm going to plug Iowa again. I went there, and a bunch of kids said they had to go home for the harvest who were from Iowa. I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean you have to leave for a week? So super important to know where you're going. Think about those things that might freak you out or might be really important to you. Yeah, so there's a lot of things to consider. It takes time. Be patient with the process, and I'm sure you're all going to make the right choice down the line.
Okay, I kind of polled you guys at the beginning to see juniors and seniors. So I'll talk a little bit about finding the right fit for juniors. So as a junior right now, what you should be doing is, thinking about all of these things that Mr. Waston just went over, right? All of the different factors, and then compiling a list of schools that you would be interested in. If you have the means to go and visit these schools in person, that's always a great idea. Otherwise, obviously, there's a lot of great things out there. You can go do tours on the internet, and there's other things like that as well. But if you're able to actually get out to these campuses at all and visit, that's obviously a great thing. But we're going to talk about later in the presentation, we have a lot of schools that actually come here on our campus and visit as well. But for our juniors out there and our junior parents, right now you need to start thinking about the factors that we talked about. narrowing down to like what size school, what area you're looking at, if you have any idea about a major, and that could change obviously 1,000 times, but starting to think about that and really getting into that. And School Links is going to be a great resource for you. You'll be able to get on there and kind of look at colleges. You can do some interest inventories on there and get some good information. So School Links is a great place to start. For our seniors, how many of you have already applied to at least one school? Okay, some people. How many of you have a list of schools at least that you're thinking about applying to? Okay, good. How many of you have thought about it but just really need a lot of help still? Okay, some people. All right, so as I mentioned in the beginning, we are all the counselors here and we're all here to help you. We're going to talk about it also later in the presentation, but we are going to have senior meetings. So our hope and goal is that we'll have a one-on-one meeting with all of our seniors during the month of September to help you, to see where you're at with that process and to help you moving forward. For those of you that are already done and ready, great. Those of you that need extra support, that's great as well. We're here to help you. And then parents also know that if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us as well. We're here to support you during the whole process. Okay, talk about how to apply. So the first thing, obviously you're gonna get your list together as a senior. Applications typically open, they always just open like August 1st. Sometimes they open in the summer. So some schools have already opened in the summer earlier than August 1st. So you can apply to these schools. Sometimes students will apply on the school's individual website. Sometimes students will apply on Common App. So you can choose for that. The reason why, what Common App is it's one application and you're filling out all of your basic information and you're gonna send it to multiple schools. So if you're applying to, I would say the average student applies to 3 to 5 schools. Obviously we have some students that apply to more, we have some students who apply to less, but I would say on average 3 to 5 schools. When you're doing your list, you're kind of looking at the schools. If more than 2 of them take a Common App, you might decide to do the Common App. What that means is you're creating a Common App account, you're entering in all your basic information one time. So all of your demographics, all of your basic information, and then each school may have different questions. So say for example, one school may require letters of recommendation, one school may require an essay, and so you're obviously paying very close attention to what each school is asking for. And then other students, they just choose to apply right on the school's website. Sometimes a school will send you a free application. Some applications, most of them actually cost money. And so you're kind of just doing what's best for you and what's the best option at that time. So you're actually doing the application on your own, obviously parents helping. Some students do it on their own. Some families, just the parent does it, which is fine, but just if that's the case, make sure you guys are working together and that you're working with us so that we know what's going on. Okay, so you're doing the actual application either on Common App or on the school's website. Once you complete the application, you're going to be making sure everything's on School Links. So every student has a School Links account, and School Links is what links it for us between the Common App and School Links. That's how we send your official documents. For example, your transcript. We'll send your initial transcript when you're applying, and then if the school requests, we'll send a mid-year transcript at January, and then at the end of the year, we'll send your final transcript to the one school that you obviously choose to go to. So we do all of that through School Links. So everyone needs to get on School Links and put the schools that they're applying to. So if you are applying to Common App schools, you're going to go on, when you go on School Links the first time, we're going to go through in detail how to do School Links in just a minute. But you're going to go on School Links and you're going to merge the two, and then your applications will pop on there. But each application is going to show up on School Links. You'll be able to keep track of them on School Links and Common App. For colleges that are not Common App, you'll go on School Links yourself and request what you need. So sometimes students are applying to colleges and the college says, we don't need anything. We don't need a high school transcript. We don't need a letter of recommendation. And so it's really important that your student and you guys are paying close attention to what the application is asking for. Because the last thing that the college wants is for you guys not be able to pay close attention to detail. So if they don't want a letter of recommendation, please don't send them one, okay? So paying close attention to the details of what they want and paying close attention to the deadlines of what they actually need. If you need a transcript, because a lot of schools are asking for self-reporting, what that means is they want you to go on and enter all your grades from freshman year through now, so you'll be able to access your transcript on School Links. Logging into Common App, like School Links for the first time, as I mentioned, your Common App and your School Links, you have to waive your FERPA rights. So what that means is you're waiving your rights to see any letters of recommendation that you request. And School Links and Common App make you do that. And the reason why is colleges want that done is because if you're asking someone for a letter of recommendation, they want to make sure that person is obviously writing you a nice, honest letter. And obviously you're going to ask people that are going to write good things about you. So you have to waive your rights to see that letter, and that letter goes directly from School Links right to the college, and you actually don't ever see that letter. If you need to request test scores, and this is also not every college wants this, so you have to pay attention to the detail. If they're requesting the test score, you could send your ACT or SAT score, but you have to do that on your own by going to College Board or the ACT website and sending that. If you sent it when you took the test, then it's already going to go there. If you didn't, you have to go onto that website and then pay about $12 to send it later. And if it's test optional, that's your choice if you send it or not. Okay, a little more detail on letters of recommendation. So some colleges want 1 or 2 letters. Typically, they don't want more than that, and so sometimes students get really excited and they ask like 4 or 5 teachers for letters of recommendation. Okay, you don't need to do that. Probably 2 teachers is fine. If you haven't, for our juniors, right now is when you start thinking about, hey, who am I going to ask for a letter? Because typically your junior year teachers are people who you would ask, because they're the teachers who are going to see you right before you start your senior year. When you come into senior year, you're not asking someone who's only known you for a week or 2. So juniors will start thinking now about like, hey, over this year, let's start thinking about who I would ask for a letter of recommendation. For our seniors, hopefully there's someone in this building that you've been kind to and that you've done good things for, and that they can write something nice about you, okay? So preferably somebody that you still are in contact with, obviously, and you can ask them face-to-face. It's always nice to ask somebody for a letter face-to-face. And then you can also follow up with an email, and you can kind of talk to them about that a little bit. Sometimes a teacher will ask you for a brag sheet. And what that is you'll get that from your counselor. It's a sheet that actually has a bunch of questions. For example, it'll ask you what you've been involved in high school, and other things like that. So that way the teacher or the counselor, if you ask us to write a letter, has a little bit more to put in the letter than maybe exactly what they for sure know about you. So say, for example, you were on the soccer team and in the musical, and they just know you as like a really good student, they can actually put in a little more detail in their letter. It's helpful. So if you want a brag sheet, you can ask your counselor for that. And like I said, some teachers request that. When you're asking for a letter of recommendation, it is common courtesy to ask for it at least 2 weeks in advance. As you can imagine, there are several teachers that get asked by a lot of students. And of course, us counselors get asked by a lot of students as well. And so paying attention to close attention to the details of the deadlines and things are really important. And so asking now is what you should do, and that wastes plenty of time in advance, and you can kind of keep up with the teacher or the counselor, and that way there's no issue. But if we wait to right before the deadline, then it becomes a little bit of an issue. When you log on to School Links, you go to a part that says letter of recommendation, all the teachers' names are there. You'll just scroll down and select the teacher, and like I mentioned, that letter will go directly from School Links right to the college that you've selected. It's also really important that you know exactly what each college is asking for, as I mentioned, because you don't want, like for example, U of I, they do not want letters of recommendation. So if you go on to School Links and you select, hey, send my letter to every school, and the teacher sends it there, that's gonna look bad for you. So it's really important that you're communicating to your teachers and you're telling them, hey, I'm applying to these 4 schools, please send my letter to, and give them specifics. And you can also put that in School Links. So nothing's gonna trick you, but just make sure you're paying attention to detail, paying attention to deadlines, and then following up with the teacher and the counselor in the process. If you want or have a letter of recommendation for somebody outside of Wakanda High School, for example, somebody that who's taught you in the past, or an employer, somebody from an outside organization, that's fine. You can request them on Common App, and then they can send their letters directly to the university. That will not go through School Links. Okay, talking a little bit about applications, deadlines, terminology. So as I mentioned, paying really close attention to those deadlines and those dates, and things are really important. So a lot of colleges, obviously you can apply regular decision. So the problem with, not the problem, but the situation with regular decision is that the time frame, you have a longer time frame, but you won't find out necessarily until, like, maybe you apply now, you might not find out until April if you got in. So it's maybe a little bit of a longer time to get an answer for a regular decision. And then sometimes the acceptance rate is not as high, as opposed to doing something a little bit like an early action or something else. Early decision. So early decision is actually legally binding, and if you were to apply somewhere early decision, you can only apply to one school. Typically, this is not something that most students apply for. I would say each year we maybe have 1 or 2 students that apply somewhere early decision. What early decision means is, so for example, say you wanted to go to Northwestern. For the students that apply early decision, 25% admittance rate is higher than obviously the 7% admittance rate. So again, it's legally binding. So if you apply to Northwestern, for example, early decision, and you get in, that means you're going there, no matter what. So if you decide when your financial aid comes through and you don't have the funds to go there, you're going there. So early decision is legally binding. So if you apply early decision and you get in, you're going there. Okay, early action is okay. So again, early action is okay, and that's highly recommended. Early action there's early action deadlines. Like the first one is November 1st, and then there's several to follow. That gives you an answer sooner. So if you apply early action, they give you an answer sooner, and usually their pool is larger as well. So for example, if your grades are kind of on the fence for a school, you look at their percentage of students that they're letting in, and you're maybe on the bubble, and you apply early action, you have a better chance of getting in than if you wait and do regular decision. You have a higher chance of getting in as early action application. And then rolling admissions, that just means the application's open all the time. You can submit it at any time, and then the decision is made kind of on the maybe weekly or every few weeks. And then open admission, anyone's open for that as well. Okay, so you might say, okay, what are schools considering when I'm applying? And there's a lot of things that go into their thought process, right? So obviously they're looking at your GPA and your course rigor. So one of the things that we're always dealing with when we're dealing with juniors and seniors is they might have taken some really tough classes freshman, sophomore year, and then junior year they're kind of like, this is getting hard. I want to drop some of these classes, or I don't really want to take honors anymore, or like, I don't really want to do this load. Well, colleges look at that. They're looking at course rigor. So if you've challenged yourself and then all of a sudden you're not challenging yourself anymore, that does play a role. So just keep that in mind. Some colleges consider SAT or ACT scores. I mentioned before, some colleges are test optional. Some colleges do take that into consideration. Essay or personal statement. And so that's something that you really need to take into consideration. And the students often ask us, hey, it's optional. Should I do it? And the answer is going to always be like, what do you think? Do you think it would help you? And it's probably going to help you. If you have something, you can add to your application. I mean, when college admissions officers are sitting there looking at everyone's application that looks very similar, and you have a personal statement, or you went through something in high school, or you have an essay that you can write on that's going to make you stand out above others, that's only going to be helpful. Of course, extracurricular activities, letters of recommendation, I skipped that one, sorry. That's going to be, again, we talked about that. Extracurricular activities, it's not too late, even for our seniors, it's not too late. It's definitely not too late for our juniors. It's really important to get involved in things. So it doesn't have to be something that's super time consuming, but it can be anything ranging from obviously a club, a sport, volunteering somewhere in the community. All of these things count and they're all included on your application. So again, when they're looking at these applications, something that helps you stand out, they want people that are going to come to their college campus that are going to be helping others and standing out and contributing and doing things right on their campus. So if they just have people that are just coming and just going to school, that kind of makes things a little boring. So get out there and do other activities and community services on here as well. All of these things help your application. And then leadership experience obviously is also a good one. So if you have an opportunity to become a leadership role in any of the clubs or anything else, or just taking on a leadership role with anything is helpful. So like I mentioned, even outside activities, like if you're able to get into one of the, like volunteering at anything in the community is helpful. And then of course, interest helps. Okay, when we talk about the outcomes, so when you actually do your applications, you're gonna hear back from these schools. Of course, everybody wants to get the letter that says you've been admitted. Yay, you've been admitted. Now you can decide, do I want to go to that school or not? And you have to give them an answer, and then you have to let the other schools know, if you decide on that school, if the other schools know you're not going to go there. So that's great if you get an admitted answer. If you are denied, that means your application will not be reviewed again. So sometimes we've had students that say, well, I got denied, but I'm going to wait, maybe they'll change their mind. No, they're not going to change their minds. If you're denied, that's it, it's denied, it is what it is. If you've been deferred, they may ask you to submit additional documentation for further review. So a very common example in this case is, and this is why we always tell our students, you have to keep working till the end. A very common situation here is, they want to see your first semester grades. And so they want to see that you're continuing to work hard, that you're continuing to do better. Maybe your freshman, sophomore grades were not the greatest, but like junior year, you turned it around. Now you're doing even better. So they want to see marked improvement, and they want to see you continuing to do well. So we often, very often, have to send to college their first semester senior grades before they make a decision on you. So keep working hard. And then waitlisted is very similar to deferred, except for they most likely will not ask for further documentation. They just are waiting to see who else is saying yes before they decide if they're going to accept you, and to see what kind of happens with that. So you'll be waitlisted, which might mean that you're waiting kind of late in the game, and then you can decide if you want to wait for that school or choose another school. So that's why when we say you apply to typically 3 to 5 schools, one school that you know you're going to get into, maybe a school that's in the middle, then you may want to choose a reach school. Or sometimes students are just like going for all schools that they know they can get into. You're kind of your choice, but as I mentioned, the counselors are here to help during that process if you need any assistance. Okay, my last slide. School links. As I mentioned a couple times here, and we're going to go in great detail in just a minute here. How many of you have been on your School Links account? Not that many. Oh no. Okay, after tonight, it's going to be a lot more. So there's a good excuse for that. We used to use a platform called Naviance. We got rid of Naviance. We've only had School Links for exactly 1 year. We just got it at the start of last year. So every student in the school, and even in the middle school, has a School Links account. And so the School Links account, as I mentioned before, it has a lot of options to explore colleges, look at career options. You can request your transcript on there. That's where you're going to go on there and look for your colleges and kind of match your colleges. And if you're applying to colleges, which I'm assuming most of why you're here, right? You're going to request your letters of recommendation, and you're going to do things like that. We also have an ability to sign up for college visits, college rep visits, which Ms. Grant is going to talk about in a few minutes. Counselors send transcripts through School Links to colleges. So sometimes parents are like, oh, can I just send a transcript myself? And sometimes colleges will accept that, but most of the time, the colleges want the transcripts coming officially from us, which we send through School Links. And as I mentioned, right now we'd be sending your initial, which is including your grades of freshman, sophomore, junior year. There obviously isn't any senior grades on them right now. Then they might ask for your first semester senior grades. We send a mid-year one. And then at the end of the year, we're going to send your final transcript to the one school you decide to go to. All right, now we'll walk you through the slides of School Links.
Okay, so these are the steps for how our students can access their School Links account and things they need to know as they get into School Links. So to find to find School Links, you're going to go to the Wakanda High School website first. From there, you're going to click on Students, where it says 9th and 12th grade students. You're going to scroll down to the bottom where it has the School Links icon, and you're going to click on that. When you click on it, you're going to do single sign-on with your Google account, so your user, your student ID email. When you click that, the first time that you log in, School Links will have you take a Find Your Path assessment. It's a career interest survey or inventory, so there are some questions that you're going to answer. And it is interesting because what it's going to show you after you answer that, what jobs, careers you identify as what you're most interested in or might be best fit. So something to take seriously, especially if you don't know exactly what you want to do after high school. But for all our first-time students logging in, it's going to have you fill out that inventory. So once you're in your SchoolLinks account, when we're looking at where to go for colleges, you're going to go to a spot that says College Application Manager, okay? And from there are a few things that you need to fill out to move forward in the process. So there's going to be some personal details that it's going to ask you about, so address, other information like that, fee waiver, and then signing in and waiving your FERPA rights. With the FERPA rights, if you're doing Common App, it's going to have you also waive your FERPA rights. So if you're doing Common App and you're going to link it with SchoolLinks, you're going to fill this out twice, essentially, okay? One in Common App, and then one with SchoolLinks. Okay, so this is how you would connect your Common App to your SchoolLinks account. Like we mentioned, Common App is a way where you can apply to multiple colleges by filling out one application. So something that we definitely recommend, if you've got 2 or more colleges that you're planning on applying to that uses Common App, we would recommend using Common App for all of those type of applications, okay? But if we look up on the screen here, when you're in your College Applications Manager, there's gonna be a spot where it says Connect Common App. So it should look like this on the left-hand side here. When you click the link, it's gonna take you to Common App. It's gonna have you sign in, and it's gonna have you basically share Common App with SchoolLinks to connect it. Once you do that, that's what it should look like on the right-hand side. And everything, all those colleges that you've added to your list in Common App that you've been working on, those should get pulled over now into your SchoolLinks account. Okay, so we talked about how you can add how you can connect Common App and the ways you can add colleges. Like I said, if you connect Common App to SchoolLinks, it should pull your colleges over, but you can also add these colleges in SchoolLinks to your account that you're applying to. And then for any non-Common App applications that you are filling out, you would need to go and add this college in SchoolLinks that you're applying to, okay? Okay, so once you've submitted your application, it should be updated in SchoolLinks that you've submitted. There is a spot on your applications requirements page where you can now see, well, what do I need done to complete my application? So this is where you would view, what do I need to do on the student's end, right? So student checklist, right? Did you fill out your FAFSA? Did you, if you needed to send SAT or ACT, SAT scores? Teacher recommendations, have those been submitted? Are those in progress right now? And then counselor documents, so transcripts, any other kind of school documents, reports, etc. Okay, so you can keep track of where you're at, what the status is for your application requirements. Like Ms. Hoffman mentioned, letters of recommendations for teachers, the students will go in and they will request that through SchoolLinks for your teacher. Now, we do recommend that before you go and do that in SchoolLinks, have a conversation with that teacher that you're looking for a recommendation for, okay? We don't want the teachers to see like 10, 15 random requests for letters and the students having to talk to the teachers about it. So make it a point to go and talk with your teacher that you're looking to get a recommendation from, make sure they're okay with it, and then in SchoolLinks, you would go and add that teacher or teachers, whatever you need for your applications, okay? And SchoolLinks will tell you, hey, for Wisconsin-Madison, 1 is required and 2 optional, okay? Once you request documents, please send your counselor an email, right? So if you need a letter of rec from your counselor, or once you've submitted your applications, just send us an email and let us know, hey, I've submitted all of my stuff. Can you please look at it and do what we need to do for our next step? We're good, next slide. And same thing with the counselors, like what we said with the teachers. If you need a letter of rec, please make sure you give us 2 weeks notice to complete those, to complete those letters. And lastly, like Ms. Hoffman said, transcripts, you are able to view your transcripts on School Links in the Record Center for School Links. So if you need anything to self-report, you can access your transcript there. But once you submit submit your application in School Links, it will let us know that, hey, your transcripts are ready to be sent there. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about rep visits. So this is just an example of rep visits, okay? This is not active for this year. As you can see, it says September 2024. So like Ms. Hoffman was mentioning, we really recommend that you look into a college as much as possible, okay? Now, I went to a smaller school in the city that I had visited a few times, but it was remarkable to me that there was a couple students from the East Coast that had never even been to the city of Chicago, and they just landed on that campus, and that ended up working for them, but we would definitely recommend looking into it a bit. You know, Mr. Waston talked about athletics and intramurals and majors. You know, we really want to make sure that you like the school, even if you end up switching majors or not participating in a sport anymore, right? We know a lot of students are like, yeah, I want to go play football or I want to go play soccer. Well, if you only end up doing a year or two, are you still going to like that school once you're there? And part of that, looking into that school is really helpful is through these rep visits. So like Ms. Hoffman mentioned, these are the actual representatives from the individual universities that are coming here to Wakanda High School, okay? So there is an updated list on School Links under events, and it is updated daily. So as rep visits are coming in, they are approved. I'm going to show you the exact date and period that they are going to be visiting, okay? So how the protocol really works for this is we first would ask that you let your teacher know, okay? Sometimes it might end up during a lunch, but you know, the colleges are making it work with their schedule. You know, on Tuesday they might be visiting Grays Lake, Wakanda, and Lake Zurich, okay? So we don't have really much say in when they come. So if they are here during a class of yours, we would first mention that you ask your teacher, okay? I've never really heard of a teacher saying no. We just want to make sure that you're not abusing this privilege, okay? So if you are coming out of class, you're first going to let your teacher know as soon as you sign up. Hey, Miss Yost, there's a college rep visit. I'm really interested in ISU, and they're going to be here next week. Would you mind if I missed your class because that's when the rep is coming? And more often than not, she's going to say, absolutely. And you're going to say, well, once we get, you know, a day or two out, could you let me know what I'm going to miss so I can make sure I have that information from class? Because you are going to be responsible for what you missed during that class period, okay? On the day of the visit, or maybe day before, I would still recommend you remind that teacher. You could either do it in person or send an email. And then the day of, say you have Miss Yost 5th hour, okay? You are still going to go straight to Miss Yost's class, get there maybe even 30 seconds early before the bell and say, hey, Miss Yost, reminder, I'm gonna head off to that rep visit so she can take your attendance, and then she'll probably write you a pass down to the College and Career Center, okay? For those of you that are unfamiliar, the College and Career Center is now right next to the library, so that's where all the reps will be. You know, they're understanding that you're coming from class, but we also want you to be on time, okay? Sometimes if nobody shows up for a rep, they're only gonna stay maybe 10, 15 minutes, okay? So don't take a detour through the lunchroom or head out to your car first, right? Get down there on time. This is really an awesome opportunity to get a lot of additional information about this college or university, because more often than not, these reps are previous students at this school, okay? So they maybe even just graduated a year or two ago. They have on-campus experience. They know what student life is like. So kind of some of the stuff you can ask them is stuff you might not be able to pull off the website. So like, what are the different dorms like? You know, at ISU, I know there's Watterson and there's, I don't know that many dorms at ISU, I didn't go there, but I do know that one. But which one do you recommend? You know, does this one have the dining hall? You know, not every dorm might have a dining hall. You can ask, like, how far is the walk from most dorms to class? You know, is it a 5-minute walk, or am I gonna have to get on a bus? So this is a really awesome opportunity to ask additional questions or even specific questions about your major. Saying like, hey, I really want to play soccer at your school, but I also want to do nursing. Like, is that feasible? Do you know anybody that's done that, and how would that work? Also consider your attire when you're heading to these reps, okay? We have seen students that have worn Kansas shirts to U of I rep visits, right? I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. Because additionally, these people are very often the individuals reviewing your application, okay? Especially for bigger schools, say like U of I or ISU. They are sending their regional rep who reviews these Lake County area applications to your school. So it's important to make a good impression, you know, make eye contact, ask good questions, pay attention, right? So these are really awesome opportunities. And like I said, this gets updated daily, okay? So they are really, really frequent in the fall, okay? And then they taper off in the springtime. So make sure you're checking that, you know, every couple days, see if the school you're interested in is visiting, and this is available to juniors and seniors. If you do know a sophomore who's really interested, I would just say reach out to your counselor first so we can have a conversation about what that looks like, okay? So now we're just going to talk about a few frequently asked questions. So number one, what is a self-report application? Ms. Hoffman touched on this a little bit. So this is where the university is asking the student to manually enter their classes and grades as they appear on their transcript. So this is where you can view your transcript in the Record Center and add your individual classes and grades, okay? Now, we obviously would ask that you're honest. Schools are always going to verify these with your final transcript at the end of the year, okay? So this is not the time to, you know, think, oh, well, I got a B+, so that was almost an A, right? Like, put exactly what's on your transcript. So that is what a self-report application is, and that's where you're gonna view your own transcript to fill that out. If only one school on my list uses Common App, should I still use it? So, like Mr. Albright said, we would recommend you use Common App if there's 2 or more schools on your list, but really it is preference, right? The nice thing about the Common App, beyond just the one-time fill out of your demographic information, is the 1Password, okay? I don't know about you guys, I can't remember any of my passwords these days. So the nice part is you have 1Password for Common App instead of filling out a Redbird portal and a Hawkeye portal and a Illini portal, you know, and having all these different applications with all these different passwords, okay? So that's one of the benefits of Common App. And if you go on that website, it's gonna show you 1,000+ schools partnered, and you can just look up your school right there. And that's another awesome resource to look into schools beyond School Links. Should I ask for a letter of recommendation if the school doesn't ask for one? We should all know the answer to this. No, Ms. Hoffman touched on this earlier. Schools want to see that you can follow simple instructions, okay? And I know that students get really excited. I see students all the time that have so many great relationships within the building that they're like, oh goodness, well, I really want to ask Mr. Heinrich. We had such a great relationship in US history, but I also need to ask Mr. Mesker because I'm thinking of going into theater, but I also want to, you know, they get on and on about all these people that they have really great relationships with, which is awesome. But like we said, we want to make sure that you're following the exact directions of those applications. And on the back end of things too, we mentioned there are a lot of teachers that get asked by a lot of students. So we want to make sure that if you are asking for a letter of recommendation that you intend on using it, right? You have to request that application. So if you go up to 6 different teachers and ask them for a letter of recommendation, but then you only end up actually requesting one on School Links from 2 teachers, you know, that teacher might have had 20 students to write a letter for, right? And if every student only gives them 2 weeks notice, well, that's a lot to get done on top of their regular course load of curriculum and homework and grading and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind. When should I start filling out my applications and working on my essays? The parent answer here is as soon as possible, but I know as a student that was once in these seats, that causes me a little bit of stress, but it's okay. That's why we're gonna talk about something here in a minute where your counselor is gonna sit down and help you out with these things, but really as soon as possible. And we're talking about filling them out, right? You know, we've got a little bit of time until November 1st if you're considering one of those early action deadlines, or even December 1st, January 15th, right? So even, I would say a huge way to alleviate some of that stress is to at least log in and see what they need from you, right? If you log in next week and see, okay, I need 2 letters of recommendation, I need this 1 personal statement, I do need to request my test scores, then you at least have some time to get these questions answered before all of a sudden it's the week before the application and you're feeling stressed because you haven't even logged in. My senior year grades don't matter. Okay, again, we should also all know the answer to this. It is very common that schools are going to request your 7th semester transcript, okay? That's what we call a mid-year transcript, okay? So they want to see your fall senior year grades to see, you know, did you really drop off that course rigor? You know, you dropped all of your AP and honors classes, you have, you know, a study hall, which it's fine to have a study hall, but they're looking at you as the whole student, right? Did we all of a sudden we're not participating in any of our extracurriculars, and we have a study hall, and we have no more AP and honors classes, and we have a couple C's and D's in there, right? I mean, we want to keep up that course rigor and keep up that work so that colleges are seeing that you're not just interested in applying to their university, getting accepted, and then bumming around campus, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna speak about senior meetings, okay? So these are individual meetings with your counselor, okay? I will say these are not required, but highly, highly, highly recommended, okay? We love to talk about colleges. We love to help students find their fit for after high school. And this is a really awesome opportunity to sit down one-on-one with your counselor and get some of those questions answered, okay? So possible topics that we're gonna cover, it's a lot, honestly. So we would be double checking your second semester schedule. We would be talking about college applications. Where are you at in the process? Do you have your list of schools? Have you started applying? Do you need any letters of recommendation? What teachers are you gonna ask? We're gonna check in about your current classes and your current grades. How are things going? Us counselors have all done this already, but we're gonna make sure you know exactly what you need for graduation, okay? And this is something I highly recommend you get in the habit of doing as you move on into college, okay? Now you're gonna have a college advisor, but that college advisor might have 500 students on their caseload, maybe even more, okay? Not to scare you all, but I've had friends in college who got to their last semester of college, met with their advisor, and they've said, hey, you're 2 classes short. Because in college, you have the opportunity to withdraw yourself from a class, you know, in the first couple days if it's not a good fit, or for, you know, maybe you had something going on. They're not always going to keep up with you on that. I highly recommend that you are paying attention to what you need. And really that just means asking, okay? Make that appointment with your advisor, double check that you're meeting graduation requirements. Like I said, we have already done this for all of our students, but we're gonna make sure that you know exactly what you need in order to graduate. Like I said, we'll talk about your plans for next year and any other questions that you might have. So in the next week or so, we are going to send out an email. You are going to get an email from your individual counselor, okay? And that'll have all the information in there. Most of you, I would say, are already familiar with how to make an appointment with your counselor. So you're gonna book an appointment during a lunch or study hall, okay? If there aren't any appointments during your lunch or study hall, just send us an email and let us know, okay? We might be able to move something around. Or keep in mind, it only lets you book a week out. So if I gave you my appointment link today, it's only gonna show you through next Monday, okay? So you may just have to wait a couple days so that it'll open up a few more days in the future. So again, these are about 15, 20-minute appointments. And in that email, we are also going to send you a Google form, okay? And this form is just to gather some information ahead of time about what you're thinking of doing after high school, if you are applying to college, where are you at in that process? Do you have a list of schools? Have you started applications? And it's also gonna ask if you have any questions, so we can really make that meeting as efficient as possible, and make sure you walk out of there feeling feeling good, okay? So like I said, you're gonna look for an email from your individual counselor, probably next week, to book a senior meeting, okay? And those are individual meetings with your counselor in their office, okay? Please don't wait till the last minute. Like I said, especially if you're stressed about the process, it is really nice to get in there, get your questions answered. And that way, if you have follow-up questions, you know, early October, before your November 1st deadline, you can reach out and already have some information.
Okay. The thought of paying for college right now could seem very daunting for some, but there are plenty of ways that you can go ahead and pay for college. For example, we have many different types of scholarships. There are billions of dollars of money available to thousands of students who plan to go to college. Aside from financial aid and other means, there are various types of the scholarships that you could apply to if you're qualified for it, of course. There's national scholarships. There's merit. FastWeb. FastWeb is a great site where you can look for the scholarships, on that particular site, and see if that's what you qualify for. But make sure that when you are applying for these scholarships, if they're asking you for money, then that's a scam. Don't pay for anything, because you're the one applying for the scholarship. You're looking for money. You're not looking to give them money, okay? We have scholarships that are available through the colleges, themselves. We have the local scholarships that we have here through the high school. The community is so generous. We have so many organizations that offer scholarships for our seniors. So look out for those sometime in late January, early February. You'll get them, the seniors will get them through the emails, but I also post them on School Links. So please learn School Links, because in School Links there is an area where you can look at the scholarships, and all of them are listed, okay? And it'll tell you the due dates, what they're looking for, and so forth. It's very, very important that you follow the directions of each of those scholarships. Not every one of the scholarships want an essay. Not every one of them want a recommendation letter. You gotta follow those directions and follow the deadline. We don't accept late applications, okay? Okay, to sum things up, pay attention, whether it's college or scholarship, pay attention to those deadlines, okay? Please request letters of recommendation and transcript at least 2 weeks prior to the application deadline. I want to remind you, for those of you who are applying for early action, November 1st, that's the first deadline, okay? November 1st this year is a Saturday, okay? If you can please, seniors, get the applications, communicate to your counselors, when you've completed the applications. We have things that we have to do for you, okay? We have recommendation letters to do, we have to send your transcript, it comes in a pile. We have to fill out secondary school reports, so we're writing a report about you, so all this stuff takes time. Please get those applications, communicate with us at least a week before the deadline, okay? Because we don't like to get the applications on the day that it's due. And it is a Saturday, and I will guarantee that we're probably not gonna work on a Saturday to get your applications in. So please get this in at least a week ahead of time. So try to organize yourselves that way. Oh yeah, I just said that. Okay, fantastic. All right, the calendar. This
Next Thursday, September 4th, is NCAA night. So if anybody is interested in playing sports in college, Lake Zurich High School is having NCAA night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. So go to the school. That's when it's happening. I will send out a flyer through the email for more information, of course. Monday, September 22nd is financial aid night. That's here at 7 o'clock. And then it's in the library for Spanish speakers. And on Wednesday, April 1st is College 101 night here, 7 to 8:30. And then we will have the opportunity to have the FAFSA Fridays, which is happening the month of October, where parent and student can come in during lunch periods to get help with their FAFSA forms. So that's on Friday, October 3rd, Friday, October 10th, the 17th, and then Thursday, October 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. Is that conference? No, that's not during conferences. That's a separate night. Okay. That's the FAFSA workshop. Yes, thank you. Okay. To cap this off, we're going to introduce our ISAC rep. Her name is Denver Keski.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Denver Keski. I work for the Illinois Student Assistance Commission for the Lake County District. I'm here basically to help with any sort of financial aid questions, literally anything related to financial aid, filling out FAFSA, interpreting financial aid award letters come springtime. I'm here to be a resource for you guys. Please take a picture of this. My email is open. Feel free to email me any kind of financial aid questions. You could also meet with me virtually. And for the FAFSA workshops and FAFSA Fridays, presentations, I will be attending those, and I will be sticking around for a few minutes after this if you had any questions before then. So thank you for having me. I'm excited to work with y'all.
Thank you, Denver. And now we will open up to questions. Yes. Okay, so the question was, she said the deadline for applications is November 1st, but the FAFSA deadline is later. So November 1st is just the first early action deadline. It's not for all colleges. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes.
When I don't finish my ACT, they mentioned that they said I scored the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. I was wondering what they did.
You said that your ACT, what did you say, your ACT score was sent to the Illinois Student Assistance Commission?
Yeah, I was just wondering what they did with that.
What's that? It's part, she said it's part of the one-click admissions.
Yeah, so if your ACT scores were sent to ISAC, it's likely because it's part of a new program called One-Click Admissions, where you will be automatically accepted to certain Illinois public universities. So once ISAC receives those scores, they will send those to the public universities, and then they can get back to you on whether you've been conditionally accepted or not. So any type of ACT, SAT scores, my pocket's ringing. So yeah, anytime ISAC receives those test scores, that's likely with the one-click admit. It's a brand new program as well, so there are going to be a couple of bumps in the road, but I'm going to stay up to date, and if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out.
Yes.
What if you have someone from a community who does a letter recommendation? How do they submit those?
Yeah, if you have, the question is, what if you have somebody in the community submit a letter recommendation? If you have somebody that's not associated with Wakanda High School, you can request them on Common App, and then so that the school knows that the letter will be coming, and they can send the letter directly to the admissions office at that school. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes.
Are you going to email these copy of the slides?
We are going to put a copy of this presentation on the Wakanda High School website. Any other questions? Yes, wait here.
He was sick when they did the ACT, so we did the makeup test a week later, and we never got his score. Who was that supposed to go to?
So you email your counselor, we can get that for you. I asked him about an ACT score, if you don't know your ACT score. Any other questions? Okay, again, if you have questions along the way, please reach out to your counselor. Thank you guys for coming.